All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Community Collaborative. I'm Eric Sperling with STN. Thank you so much for being a part of this important ongoing series aimed at highlighting diversity and inclusion initiatives happening right here in Arizona. Why is this series so important? Well, I think we're 8 episodes in right now, and all of our community leaders that have agreed to be on the show have all agreed that we still have a long way to go. And this series will show us how we're going to do that, how we're going to get these ideas out there, and the solutions to inspire each other and also hold each other accountable along the way. I want to thank you to the live audience out there watching right now, or if you are streaming this on demand. Full transparency, this is our first live episode with the goal of building a consistent audience of community leaders joining the conversation. So my guess is these first few will be a little more intimate. I see we have like 35 to 50 people jumping on right now, but we hope to flip that in the future. So if you are watching this live, hit the share button. If you're watching this on demand, try joining us live for the next episode. Okay, we're going to spend about a half an hour together, and we are doing this on your lunchtime. So, break out the lunch, join us. As always, we bring together some of the best leaders in our business community. Joining us live in studio, also producers on this series, there they are, Monica Villalobos. She is the CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Robin Reed, CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. And how it works is they will lead today's think tank with our guests, and then we'll close with their final thoughts on how we can apply and act on what we've heard and what we've learned today. Now, we also have additional members of the Community Collaborative. They are joining us live in the chat today, and we are so thrilled to have 2 inspiring leaders joining us via Zoom. First, she is a 4th-generation Arizonan. She's on the top of your screen there. She has worked tirelessly for our state's Latino community. Petra Falcon, Executive Director of Promise Arizona, is there. We also have LaRae Sampson. Ashley is a well-known entrepreneur. She actually got her start working with superstars Jay-Z and Kanye West. Ashley is the founder of StylePHX, and she works with clients aligning personal and professional brands. They will be joining the conversation in just a moment. Little bit of fun before we get started. If you did RSVP or you saw the promos going out for the live audience, we will have our first giveaway. All of our giveaways are in place to help support our local businesses. The first giveaway is actually a $50 gift card to Purple Girls Popcorn. I haven't had it before. I'll have to now. For more on Purple Girls Popcorn, a quick message from their owners.
Hello, Arizona community leaders. My name is Kimberly Horton, owner of Purple Girls Popcorn and More here in Glendale, Arizona. Your support of local small businesses like ours is so important because we have been greatly impacted by COVID-19. We are not only fearful for the survival of our businesses, but also the health and safety of our families too. Many of us don't qualify for the city's grants, so we've had to buckle down to do what we can to drive more online sales, add delivery platforms such as DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub. Not only do we handcraft a variety of delicious air pop popcorn flavors, but we also have delicious homemade ice cream and bake-to-order breads such as banana, zucchini, and lemon blueberry. Go to purplegirls.com and make your order today.
All right, all you need to do is enter the word popcorn in the comment section. We'll put your name in our virtual fishbowl here, and then we'll pull a winner after our first segment. Okay, we do want to dive into our conversation about diversity and inclusion, but from a general standpoint. And the question is, how do we take the best of what the millennials and the older generations have to offer when it comes to D&I and really create a powerful new force moving forward? And Monica, let's start with you, and let's introduce the Zoom guest. Let's bring him in and start the conversation.
Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate being here. Also with our co-host, Robin Reed from the Black Chamber, my counterpart there. These are difficult times. We have a big day coming up tomorrow, and so we're going to jump right into it with Petra Falcon, who is legendary for her efforts in the Latino community, for her activism. But more importantly, she also acts as a brain trust, a history, so that we don't forget what we've learned and what we can do better. So I'd like to welcome at this time Petra Falcon to join the conversation and talk a little bit about what have we learned about diversity and inclusion in our communities. You're a 4th-generation Arizonan. You know the good, the bad, and the ugly. What can you share with us, Petra?
I've been thinking about that question since you and I first talked about this show, and thank you again for including me. I just think that it's history repeating itself. 4 or 5 decades ago, we were in the civil rights movement, we were in the farm worker movement, we were trying to make sure that programs are coming to our state so that it would fight poverty and include health care and work programs for working families. And here we are, 4 or 5 decades later, and we're still fighting for some of the very same issues. But in terms of election work and what's going on tomorrow, I think it's always been that fight to make sure that people could get their vote would get counted. And I think the issues still tend to be the same. Do you trust that the parties? Do you trust the candidates? Do you trust that your vote is going to get counted? And that's the number one issue for tomorrow. People are concerned that tomorrow, the day of the election, there'll be protests on the streets. You see people across the country boarding up their businesses. People started voting the first day the early voting got started. I went to a local voting site, and there was lines. And there were still 30 days out, and so people have just been dying to cast their ballot for this election, and I'm just curious to see what's going to happen tomorrow. But again, to respond to your question, I think it's people want to have their votes counted. People want to have a voice, and what I say, this is our democracy, and if we don't cast our ballot, then we are letting somebody else make those decisions for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think particularly every presidential election, we always talk about mobilizing the diverse vote, right? How do we mobilize it and what that really means? What do you see that we've done maybe differently this year, because we are, especially in Arizona, at historic levels of voter turnout? Are there things that we did differently this year, in your opinion, that made the difference in getting a more diverse vote out there for this election?
Well, what really has impacted this election has been the coronavirus epidemic. I mean, it's just changed the whole world of civic engagement or community engagement or door-to-door canvassing and how candidates relate to voters. It's just changed our whole world, and we had to shut down March 17th, and that's when the election cycle began. And so we've been doing everything by virtual Zoom. We had to have sessions so that people would understand how to Zoom, how to get on a computer and connect to somebody else. We've been texting, and we're still doing that. We're still doing that right now. But it's easier to measure the impact you're having. When you're going door to door, somebody may or may not answer the door, and you don't know what impact you're going to have. But when you're doing it online, you're recording every single thing that's happening, and you're getting a response practically at the same time that you're sending out a text or sending out an email or sending out any kind of a phone call. What's the learning from all of that is that I think we have to adjust to what the environment is. I think we need to meet where people are. And again, people, most of the time, and again, I've been doing this for 4 decades. I was trying to remember when was the first year that I voted, and that was almost 40 years ago. And it's so how do you relate to a voter? And it's about really having that trust relationship and that eye to eye. And that's what's been different this year, is that we haven't had that other layer of election work. So we're going to see what happens tomorrow. But quite frankly, there's a lot of energy out there, a lot of questions. People are coming in, making sure that they're registered to vote. People are bringing in their ballots. And again, we can't write them for them, but they really have questions. They have questions about the judges. So this is a whole new environment in terms of campaign work, in terms of an election. And yes, there's a presidential, but they're concerned about school boards, they're concerned about city council, they're concerned about the legislature. So it's not just about the presidential. I think they made that decision a long time ago. Everything else has just been it's included with that. So.
Yeah, to your point, I think technology has made a huge difference this year, because these are different ways to, at least non-traditional ways, to connect, particularly when it comes to voting, and that's been really important. I know one thing that's been frustrating whenever there's election is, what about the youth vote? Meaning those that are just turning 18, those that are in their early 20s. In the past, their participation has best been described as apathetic, if you will. And if you had one message to share with those first-time voters or young voters about what you've seen and the history here in Arizona, what would you say to them?
Well, Monica, what I'm hearing reports is that the 19 to 29-year-olds across the country are voting in the highest number ever. But what I would tell the young people, and what we've been telling young people, and what we've done this year, is that we've told people to create a plan with their family, and friends. Don't go to the polls by yourself. So we've got young people bringing in their nanas, or nanas bringing in their young people to get registered to vote. So do it as a family, do it as a community. Don't do it by yourself, because people tend to go to vote by themselves, but not this year. People really are developing a plan. Are they going to go vote early? Are they going to drop off their ballot? Or are they going to go vote the day of? There's a lot of energy, and people are not doing it by themselves. They're bringing others with us. So that's the message. Don't go alone. Bring somebody else with you, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or your family member. That's what's going on this year.
That's a great way to really leverage the cultural nuances, right? Because we go to the supermercado together, we go to church together, we should go to vote together as well.
Yeah.
I'll pass it over to my colleague, Robin. I know he's got some questions as well, and we've got another guest to introduce as well.
So,
thank you.
Petra, thank you very much. I actually think that's a very powerful message to encourage people to go to the polls together if you need to go to the polls, if you're not doing an early vote or something along those lines. But here's my other question. How do we take what we've learned and use it to make sure that actionable solutions are passed along?
I think you have to work, and what we've tried to do here and across the country, because Commerce Arizona belongs to a couple of national networks that work in community and work with immigrants and work with new Americans, is make sure you're in communication with your county recorders and your Secretary of State, and they are the ones that really have to create those kinds of actionable proposals or policies or what I call pathways for early voting, for easier voting, or more education. You know, they developed a big, powerful booklet called "Where Is My Ballot?" And we've been using that, and it's in English and Spanish, and everything you want to know about the elections and candidates are in that booklet, and we are really using that. So again, that we need to do more of that. We also need to do more of in neighborhood, in community, and Monica mentioned churches or schools. I think we need to bring in the institutions that are already connected to people, and let's use those institutions as mediating institutions so that they're connecting the voters to what's important to them. And what's important to them is, you know, how often is a bus going to run, or when is the trash going to get picked up, or if I'm a small business, how is the city going to support my small business, especially during an emergency? So I just think the institutions that exist have to play a different kind of a role moving forward in terms of educating voters and new voters, because there's a lot of new voters out there. And just in Arizona alone, we had 86,000 new American voters in the last several years, in the last 3 or 4 years. And they're just not from Mexico. They're Asian and Pacific Islanders, and they're from the Middle East and the North African. So the profile of immigrants is no longer just Mexican.
Great. Thank you. Petra, thank you very much. Eric?
Thank you. You know, you nailed it in one of our earlier conversations when you refer to this as a relay race, and it's passing of the baton from one generation to the next. And we're going to talk with Ashley coming up about what other generations are missing when it comes to getting D&I right in our companies. Her perspective is really on point and eye-opening. I can't wait to hear from Ashley. And again, big thanks to Petra for joining us live this afternoon. First, though, a little bit of fun. Again, we're going to announce our first giveaway winner, and I'm being told it is... I'm doing this because it's really happening. Chris Klein, not the actor from the American Pie series, all right? No, if he is joining us, congrats. But we will have a member of our team send you a message. Congratulations, you just won a $50 gift card to Purple Girls Popcorn. Our next giveaway is dinner for two to Alexis Grill on Central, valued at $100. Okay, all you need to do is enter the word VOTE in the comments section. Chris Klein, you cannot win again. Sorry, you're out for this one. Again, you'll go into our virtual fishbowl along with those others that entered using the Community Collaborative email invitation, and we'll select a winner in just a few minutes. Again, a $100 gift card to Alexis. Okay, our STN app is updated every week with new shows and segments featuring local leaders and organizations that are truly making a difference in our community. But right now, we want to share with you a message from some of our future local leaders. Now, we know it's been a challenging year for so many parents, trying to navigate their jobs, their kids' school, and everything else going on. So here is a public service announcement from Arizona's future leaders.
Dear parents,
we know it's hard right now.
We know you're struggling.
We see your emotions.
Anxious.
Fearful.
Confused.
Frustrated.
It's okay not to be okay right now.
There's a lot going on. COVID, the economy,
Zoom schools,
racial injustice. We know it's hard right now.
We know you're struggling.
But
struggle makes you stronger.
Sometimes your toughest moments produce the greatest outcomes.
You don't play with crayons anymore, but we do.
So you can learn a lot from a crayon.
Maybe you feel broken and worn like this crayon.
Now remember, broken crayons can still color the same.
In fact, they can do things a fresh crayon can't.
They can use their hard, rough edges to make greater images.
Despite being broken and worn, they can still
create,
spread joy,
inspire. Sometimes it takes the broken crayons to make the best picture.
We're kids.
We're gonna be okay.
And so will you.
You've got this.
You've got this.
You've got this. You have got this.
What a great message, and so much fun putting that together. And Robin and Monica, after watching that, I think we can all agree we're in good hands in the future if we have those leaders in place. Robin, let's talk now about passing that D&I baton from one group of leaders to the next, and I'll let you bring in our next Zoom guest. Robin, I'll send it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. So during a pre-production call, as the conversation continued to evolve and develop, I think we came to this consensus that the approach to D&I is very much like a relay race, that each generation in this case is responsible for running their leg of the race. However, they actually become disqualified if they try to run the next leg of the race, or if they fail to let go of the baton and let the next group run with it. Interestingly, Ashley and I, following that, had a text thread going back and forth with even more ideas and more comparisons to the relay analogy. And I'm going to have Ashley share that with you. So I want to introduce Ashley LaRae Sampson.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, so as we were talking on the pre-production call, Robin, it was a fascinating part of the conversation when we started talking about the relay racing. And one thing that I just want to really point out is that our generations are so different, and the way that we want to go about things are so different, and we all understand that. We all know that. So with that being said, some of the differences that a lot of the other generations complain about are things like, we want more rest. We don't want to work so hard. We don't want to, to be racking our brain every moment of every day. And that's what we've kind of grown up doing in this generation. I'm a millennial, so that's the generation that I'm coming from. I'm at the upper end of that. So one thing that we really need to be considering is that our generation has really been able to visually see the detriment that type of behavior has had on the older generations. So you guys tend to work your behinds off so much, 100% of the day, all day, every day, to do so many great things that have led us to where we are now, so that we can all finally really start to come together. But what we're seeing is that whole concept of no time to rest is really unhealthy. So it's not that we don't want to run the relay race with you guys or with other generations. It's more so that we don't want to run it the same way that you guys have ran it. We are basically the last leg. We're the fourth leg of this relay race, if you want to consider all the different, generations of what we've gone through. And as the fourth leg, we need to be able to take it and run how we take it and run, which means we need more time to allow ourselves to receive, to allow ourselves to rest, to give ourselves the time to brainstorm, the times to really, get our mental faculties together. And that's one of the things that I'm seeing the difference is. It's not necessarily that smooth relay transition between the generations, is the total understanding that we don't want to have the high rates of suicide and the high rates of heart attacks and the high rates of all of these unhealthy ways that we've been going about things that are killing people early in their 50s and their 40s and their 60s. We see that with our parents and with those other older generations. And we want to run the relay in a much more consistent, smooth, win-win type of way. Because once we do, we all get to be up on the podium together. Whoever wins the last leg, it makes no difference, because all 4 of the teammates, or the entire relay team, for example, all of our generations, get to stand up there on the podium winning together, but not everybody runs the race the same way.
Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate that. I guess my only request is that maybe we can start referring to the other generation as either the previous generation or the seasoned generation, and not necessarily as the older generation.
But like being called older?
I personally, I don't mind. Now I know that during that, Monica had some interesting realizations and ideas relative to when you shared that during our pre-production call. Monica?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us. As I mentioned to you, I am both fascinated and frustrated by that perspective, right? I'm fascinated because it seems like something that my generation just never thought to do because we were so busy doing stuff, right? But I'm also frustrated because I feel like everything we do is for you, right? We're leaving it for our kids. My kids are Generation Y, they're plurals, and everything we do is for them and for you. And so how can we do a better job of setting you all up for success when you're entering a workforce that has multiple generations in it for the first time? So diversity inclusion has so many different layers. Robin and I were just talking about that, right? It's not just the race layer, it's the gender layer, it's the generational layer, and we've been slowly peeling back that onion through this series of webinars, and I think we're all about solutions. So as you think about your work and your vision for the future, what do you see? What more can we do to help set you up for success? And maybe look at this in a fairly different perspective, because let me tell you, time to think sounds great to me. I just don't know how to do it.
Yes, well, one thing that can really help everybody is just learning how to relax a little bit more. Also, most specifically, learning a little bit more about mindfulness or digging deeper into mindfulness, and really taking the time to align, to relax, to come together, to sit back, and to allow what needs to come in to come in. So I know, and I think a lot of us know, that the previous generation has worked so hard for us, for your children, for your grandchildren. But one thing that you guys didn't necessarily see was what we see with our parents, with our previous generation. So you didn't see your parents working all day and all night, working multiple jobs. You didn't see your parents stressing themselves out so much to where they don't even want to continue forward. You didn't see your parents dying, like I said, from heart attacks or high blood pressure in their 50s and their early 60s. A lot of your generation's parents are still alive, while a lot of my generation's parents are not. And we're seeing that consistently more and more. So one of the things that we can all kind of do together, and that I think that this is where our society is moving towards, especially with work, because it's been unsustainable, is relax and be consciously relaxing. Take the time and the effort to relax no matter what happens. And when I say relax, I mean rest yourself. I mean self-care. I mean spending time with family and friends. Those are the things that your generation was taught isn't necessarily as important, because you needed to run that race as hard as you ran the race for us, but it's not sustainable, as I said before. So I think taking some cues just from those little things can be really helpful, because we as well are doing everything, not only for ourselves, for you guys, and for our children too. Because what we want is actually going to benefit everybody. The same way that we want more days off, we want more time to ourselves, we want more breaks, more freedom, that would benefit every generation that's coming into work. And that's what everybody wants. A lot of people truly want that. They just don't know how to actually take the time to do that. You take the time by simply taking the time to do that.
Right.
You just have to take the time for yourself to do that.
It's really good advice, Ashley. I am going to definitely work on my mindfulness, so I appreciate that. I hope you all will keep me in check. You know, as we sort of close up, one last question I had for you is just to bring it full circle. We heard Petra, and you know, tomorrow's a big day. Tomorrow's a very big day. But we have to play the long game, right? As we talk about relays, this is, you know, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and tomorrow will change. Either way it goes, and we may not find out for some time, it will change things for us. What are you seeing among your peers when it comes to things like voting and civic awareness? How are you all feeling about where we are today?
A lot of my peers did think that it was very important in the past election, because we were able to foresee some of the similarities between that past election and other situations that we've seen over the course of history in other countries, as well as, you know, some bits of our country as well. The issue with the last election was that people didn't realize how important it was going to be to vote, because the polls were saying a lot of things that weren't necessarily what was happening. So that's the difference that I'm seeing with this election, is that those same people are still very fired up about it, but even more so now. But now there's been a lot of extra precautions taken for how they can get their vote out, and helping others as well. So I'm seeing a lot of fear. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen. And I'm also seeing a lot of hope, because there are a lot of people that couldn't vote for so many different reasons last election that have already been able to vote, and their vote's been counted now. So I think a lot of us are really, you know, we have our concerns about what's going to happen, because we do know that either way, something's going to change regardless. But there's a lot more hope than if there weren't more ways for us to figure out how to vote, and how to vote early, like there have been the past few months.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley. Really appreciate your insight. Petra as well. As we go into tomorrow, I think both Robin and I want to encourage everyone not only to vote, but also to realize that this is a long game. And during that recovery period, we will continue to bring as much information and perspective to you as possible. Diversity and inclusion, again, is something we do to enable those that are around us to manifest it. And so we will continue to talk about this important topic far beyond the election. So I'll pass it over to Eric.
Thanks, Monica, and thank you so much, Ashley. Such great perspective there. I know we had a great time in our pre-production call, and thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon. We do have another winner to announce. Very exciting. This is the $100 gift certificate to Alexis Grill. Scott Richter, you are our winner there. That's a fantastic restaurant on Central. So someone from our team will contact you. Congratulations to Scott Richter. All right, I have a little bit of a surprise. So it says ad-lib in the prompter. They don't know this is coming. It's been a pretty challenging year for all of us. And, you know, I do want to take just a little bit of time to recognize Robin Reed. An amazing job this year. So much has happened. Back in March, I remember when COVID hit and Robin and I were having conversations, and he was so positive, and I'm looking at him, that he just kept telling me, you know, every challenge is an opportunity. So COVID happens, the economy's starting to go down. Then George Floyd happens. So, and he remained positive through the whole thing, and all of our conversations were about overcoming and taking every obstacle like it was an opportunity. And then in some of those conversations, we got to talk about music and the music we loved. And so we started talking about Motown, and we started talking about our respect for Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson. And one of my discoveries during quarantine was Cameo.com. So, Carlos, I'm going to have you unmute the thing now so we have it. And just here's a special message for you, Robin.
Hey, Robin. Surprise. Smokey Robinson here. I know you did not expect to hear from me, man. But Eric contacted me. And he said how hard you've been working this year and what you've accomplished and all that. And that's good news, man. It's good to hear that. You know, everybody should be as conscientious of their jobs as apparently you are, because He called and said, you've been doing a great job this year and working really hard. So take some time and relax now, brother. You know, cool out, have a good time, enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, because that's what we need to do. And stay safe. You know, keep your family safe. Keep your mask on when you're out in public and all that, you know. But God bless you for your hard work, my brother. And you keep it up, and that's it. All right, man. Eric sent this.
That's Smokey Robinson.
Wow.
That's Smokey Robinson.
Wow.
Echoing what Ashley said. Relax.
Yeah.
They both said it.
Wow. That's I cannot even thank you enough. You know, that's you know, Smokey Robinson, his music, his voice, his activism represents everything about how I was raised. So it brings back memories of, you know, amazing, happy times with my parents and with my siblings, and so for you to put that together, I can't thank you enough. That was amazing.
I can't take too much credit. Again, I know people have discovered Cameo during quarantine, and so we'll split how much that cost after. All right, we do want to wrap it up with some final thoughts, because you know tomorrow is a big day. Huge day. So Monica and Robin, everything we've heard today from a business community standpoint, you know, one of our giveaways, the word was vote. So let's wrap it up on that note. And I think it goes without saying, you know, we're talking about the next generation. We're talking about the previous generation. So Monica, final thoughts as we get into Election Day tomorrow.
I'm still verklempt over here. I'm crying for Robin. I don't know how you follow Smokey Robinson, but I think that, you know, it's true. We have got to stick together. We have got to see ourselves as family. And, you know, I hope that the work that we've all done together here between Eric, Robin, myself, the entire STN team, we see it as a family and an opportunity to share with you and bring on different guest speakers to talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion, but more importantly, how do we make that actionable? And I hope in some small way we've been able to do that. I know tomorrow is a big day for everyone. We are all nervous and on edge. Either way it goes, what's most important is that this new emerging majority, whether it's a majority or the minority, we have got to stick together and continue to move this country forward. There will be a lot after the election that we will have to deal with, and unless we do that in a collaborative way together, it's going to be really hard to get through. So not only encouraging you to vote, but also encouraging you to weather the storm that will inevitably come after. We will continue to be here for you.
Robin, anything?
Yeah, so I think this is very important. Anyone who's listened to me speak, you know that you will very rarely hear me recommend one side or the other, and I'm actually not going to do that now either. What I will say is, regardless of who's elected, remember, hold that individual and that administration accountable for the promises they've made. If it was not your preferred candidate, continue to advocate at the local, regional, and national level of your voting to get your ideas heard, to get your initiative put in front of the right people so that they can be developed and come to action. As it relates to each other, let's remember to be respectful. Let's remember to be responsible. Let's remember to be safe. But just it's so important. You know, the people are the power in our country, not our elected officials. The people are. So we need to pay closer attention to how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. And I think we will find that then our country will run very much the same way.
All right, I just want to wrap things up and say thank you again to Robin and Monica, Petra and Ashley for joining us, and thank all of you for watching us. Again, this was our first live episode of the Community Collaborative, so thank you for watching us live. Now it's on you. Press the share button. Let everybody else catch a glimpse of what we talked about today. And you can always check out past episodes by downloading the STN app there or visiting stntv.com. All right, we will see you back here live in a couple of weeks. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us.